Hey, you all. This is Maysha with As Long as You're Breathing. And I hope everyone is doing well this Sunday evening. As long as you're breathing, keep living. That's the stuff we're going to be talking about today in relationships.
As long as you're breathing, keep living. As long as you're breathing, keep living. As long as you're breathing, keep living. As long as you're breathing, keep living.
All right. Yeah, it's humorous to me. So I hope everyone had an amazing Sunday. It was warmer here, so I did get to walk, and yeah, I enjoyed it immensely. Just finished dinner, um, pasta with veggies, and strawberry pie. And the sunset was kind of lackluster. I started to take pictures of it, but I really wasn't able to see much of it tonight. So anyway, regardless, it's been a beautiful day. But I didn't see anyone all day. I did see people. I was out in the patio area, and I did see people going by. And I did see some people, I suppose, when I was walking, and I waved hello. But yeah, and that's kind of what Pam and I were talking about yesterday, and how we got into relationship 2.0. Is Pam and I were talking about how we can get into this notion that we have to be whole and complete unto ourselves. And we can take that too far. And it can become, if we're in relationship, then we're not able to be whole and complete unto ourselves. And that's just not true. As with all things, Pam brought up yesterday, I heard a bit of the recording today. Pam brought up yesterday, how did we get here? Well, it's like with all things with our society, we go to extremes. I grew up in a home where there was abuse. I grew up in an abusive home at a time where nobody wanted to hear it. But when finally people were willing to listen to it, well, then it became, if you just said the word abuse, it was automatically the person did it. We've gone too far with it. Now, nobody take that and me say that we should not be doing anything about abusive homes. I came from one. We absolutely should be. But we shouldn't be, somebody says abuse and that just makes it so. We shouldn't. We go too far with these things. We get to where we don't have any sense about, there's no common sense about how we're looking into them or handling them. We did the same thing with lots of other things. We did it with women's lib. You know, it got to the point where if a man opened a door for a woman, then he was doing the wrong thing. Why? Why? I come from the South. I don't get out of a car unless the guy opens my door. That just don't happen. My mom doesn't get it. My mom's like, I'll open the door for you. And I'm like, it's not the point. That's not the point. It's a chivalry thing. It's a sweet thing. It's a respect thing. It has nothing to do with whether or not we can open the door or open our own door. I mean, it has nothing to do with it. It has to do with, it's a respect thing. And so we went too far when we made it where, oh my God, if a man opens my door, I'll give him a piece of my mind. What? That's too far. So we take things too far. We did the same thing as we talked about yesterday with self-care. We all got the point that doing our self-care is important, then we have to do it first. But then we stopped there. And we didn't realize that, well, we were starting this self-perpetuating cycle of bringing people into our lives that they were only going to take care of themselves. And so that's also kind of how we've ended up where we are now. Everybody's just taking care of themselves, and nobody is remembering the next part of the equation here. The universe is relationship. Everything in the universe is relative. If something happens with one part of it, it affects another part of it. Therefore, we are created relatively. Everything is relationship. So, whenever we start doing self care, we start with, and I know I've said it a million times and I'm going to keep saying it because it is vital that we get this concept. You see, we figure out how we want to be treated. Then we treat ourselves that way. Then we put that energy back out. We treat everyone else that way. Now, if someone ends up being a difficult person and not in a positive energy loop with you, then you just pull the energy back from it. But you don't go into this mode of taking your marbles and going home and not treating anybody else the right way. That's not what we do at all. You just pull your energy back from that person that is not in vibrational alignment with you, not the world. This blanket way of handling things, this knee-jerk response, this all or nothing thing, that's the issue here. You see, when we only take care of ourselves and the energy we put off is, I've got my self-care down, I've got my boundaries, then that's all we're going to attract back to us are people with, and I'm taking care of me and I got my boundaries. That's what you're going to attract back to you. Are people with that type of mentality. And is that how you want to be treated? Do you want everyone around you to have boundaries up and it be all about them? No. We're meant to be in relationship. And therefore, we have to let the boundaries down. Now, I know somebody said, oh, no, I can't do that. I'll get hurt. You might. But you're not going to know until you try it. And I have to say, were my heartaches I've been through in life, were they hard? You betcha. But they were all worth it. Something good came from all of them. But when we have nothing going on, when we have no interaction going on, there's nothing that can come good from that. We're meant to be in relationship. We're just attracting back to ourselves more of nothingness. When we make our lives so that there's this void there and we don't let anyone cross it, then we're self-perpetuating that void. Well, the right person will come and I'll be able to let my guard down then. No, they can't come if you don't let your guard down. That's energy management. They don't come unless you let your guard down. Unless it is truly like a serendipitous thing, unless it's truly a synchronicity thing, unless truly the universe is really doing some heavy duty trying to make something that is supposed to happen. But we have to be listening to our guidance for that. You're not going to just run across that person. You have to be putting the energy out for that to get it back. And we can't worry about what society thinks for those of us who actually like being in relationships. We can't worry if society is like, well, there's another woman that needs a man. Or there's another man that can't live by himself and take care of himself. I promise you, folks, people talk about us no matter what we do. The people who want to talk about us find something to talk about. If people want to talk about you, they will find something to talk about. So you cannot live your life based upon what people are going to say. People are always saying something. I had a friend who came all the way from Louisville, Kentucky, over a 3-hour drive, close to a 4-hour drive, when I lost my son. She came to the funeral, and then she turned around. As soon as the funeral was over, she got in her car and she drove back. And the reason she came is my boys ended up going to live with their dad. Now, this was at a point in time. This was 20 years ago, folks. When a woman's children went and lived with the dad 20 years ago, Well, she was not a good person because the children are supposed to live with the mom. Not in our case. I had health issues, and my youngest son had health issues. We were both diagnosed about the same time. It didn't work. I literally ran into a cousin on the street who, in front of the bank, at the top of her lungs, I can't believe you gave up those babies. And I'm like, give up what? I have joint custody. I see them, yada, yada, yada. People are going to talk, folks. My friend that came, excuse me, to the funeral home came because she had stayed in the community long after I had left. Excuse me, allergies. And she was worried about how I was going to be treated at the funeral home. I was not. It didn't matter how they treated me. I knew the truth. I'm not one of those people that has to have other people to validate me. I'm not one of those people. So, yes, I'm a relationship person. And no, that doesn't mean I need someone. That means that's how I function is best is in relationship. Most of us do. Most of us do. Because everything is about relationship. So that was one of the questions Pam had yesterday is how did we get here? Well, we got here because like with most things with society, we've pushed it too far. We went from here all the way over to here, and we never did stop here in the middle. No balance to it. We're meant to be whole and complete unto ourselves and then have the relationship dimension and do the relationship in the relationship dimension so we each stay whole and complete. That's how all relationships should be. So there's no reason for anyone who is interested in a relationship being told, well, you're just needing to be with someone. You can't be alone. I've been alone for over a year now. I can be alone. Pam's been alone longer than that. We can be alone. But to feel like we're going to be criticized or ostracized or any of those things for saying, I miss having a relationship, that's the wrong. It shouldn't be that way. So, for me, I don't care what people think. So it doesn't matter. And Pam's pretty much like I am. But we know there are a lot of people out there who are hesitant to speak up and say, I'd like to be in a relationship because they get labeled for wanting to do that. And that's an unfair label. Relationship is what the universe is all about. And as a matter of fact, as I was teaching with the twin flame stuff, and this came up yesterday, but I want to bring it up again because it's very important. The whole point of everything we're doing right now is to understand the vibrational frequency coming up, is to understand that everything is relative and that each of us being in our unique vibrational frequency is what brings everything to the vibrational frequency it should be at. So everything is harmonious. Well, the twin flames in particular, but all relationships are meant to be 1 + 1 = 3 because that is an exponential growth of relationship. And the universe is relationship. So it's an exponential growth of high vibration in the universe. It raises the vibration of everything. It stabilizes the chaotic energies we've had. So it's an essential thing, cosmic law, universal law wise. That is a great deal of what we are doing right now is learning to expand consciousness exponentially. We're expanding conscious exponentially by adding a whole other dimension. We have learned that we're not supposed to do this and get so entangled that we're one and we're irrevocably broken if something goes wrong. We're not supposed to do just this, where there's no interconnection, but we're to add a whole other dimension of consciousness, and that is the relationship dimension. And that mirrors our relationship with ourselves. How do I want to be treated? Let me treat myself that way. And then let me put that energy back out into the world, which makes an exponential situation for ourselves, because then we have all of that coming back to us. And it's also how the universe is. There's each of us and the universe, and then the relationship of the universe, the relationship we have all together. That's three, that's exponential. So there's stability of everything is also the reason why we are to be in relationship. I'm not talking just couples, I'm talking all relationship. None of us are meant to be an island unto ourselves. Now, one of the issues we get into, however, with relationship, and it's really important that we don't, is manipulation. Manipulation is very important that we don't think we can manipulate someone else. Each person gets to be who they are. That is why we create the dimension of the relationship. So each person can stay whole and complete. And then we work together within the relationship, and we create that as a whole separate entity. But when we want to be with someone so we can control what they're doing, that's a problem. None of us have the right to control what somebody else does. None of us has that right. Each person is meant to be here and be whole and complete and live their story. If our stories are written together, meant to be together, if our heart spaces light up and we know that, and we're open to the intuition of it, then that's a beautiful thing. But it's not if we try to manipulate someone into it. We can't manipulate people into a relationship. And it can get complex. You want to be in a relationship with someone, and so you try to be upfront, you try to talk to them, you try to be open, all of those things, and you don't get the same thing back. So you automatically think they don't want to be in a relationship with you, and that's not always the case. Not everyone is open to their intuition and open to their guidance, and not everyone is open, period. And that's very confusing. Communication in relationships is very tricky. I truly, as I talked about with Pam, I truly send video for many of my messages. I truly say, let's hop on a Zoom, let's hop on a video chat, so I can see the person. And I know they can see my expression, they can tell what I'm saying, why I'm saying it, how I'm saying it, and I can do the same thing. But we can bridge two communication styles. I used DISC for years, is what I taught for behavioral style. And there's a D, which is a very direct person, very goal oriented, not real emotional, that kind of thing. They get stuff done. They like to tell you one time. They're impatient, perfectionist, highly successful people usually, because they're so driven. Then there's an I. I was an I. An I is a D, only the soft, gentle style. An I is all of those things that a D is, only they're also a people person. So they're a D with a softer edge. Then there's an S, who is not overly assertive, kind of just goes along with whatever everybody else wants to. An S is one of those that they go along and they help get things done. And they don't want to stand out. They don't want to be front and center. They don't want to be the one telling the jokes. They don't want to be the I. They don't want to be the D. They just want the I's and D's to tell me what to do. And they're happy to do it. They're pretty easygoing usually. Then there are the C's. One of the hardest to get along with, in my opinion. not get along with, but to bridge to, in my opinion. C's have many of the attributes of D's. Things they want things done. They they can say things very directly. They are very direct. But the thing with the C is they're very detail oriented. Now a D and an I, we're not detail oriented. That's why I went in and figured out what needed to be done at a facility, and I left crews there to fix it, because that every day going in doing the same thing. No. No. That's not me at all. We're not day in day out people. We're not detail oriented. Now we want details done right, and when we get detail oriented, we are detail oriented. But that is not we're the people, we're the big picture people. We're the ones who see what the detail is, and then we find the S's and the C's and we tell them. The S's, they're pretty good at doing most of what you say. Like I said, they're easygoing. The C's, however, the very detailed ones. I talked the other day about how there were people who didn't like to work for me, and they would be the ones that's like, so tell me exactly what you want me to do. That's a C. Tell me exactly what you want me to do, so I can get it exactly right. And they will do the same thing over and over and over until it is exactly right, because they won't hand you something that's not exactly right, because it reflects on them. Many D's are also a C. Many D's are also a C. I can have a high C when I'm around certain people. When I'm in situations with people who want something from me and they are hypercritical people, I go into C mode, and I do it as a defense mechanism. I'm an easygoing I, and I don't enjoy the detail stuff. So you hand me something to do and you're a difficult person, I'm going to go into C mode on you. I'm going to go into, tell me exactly what you want. Tell me exactly, because I'm not going to screw it up and then have you jump on me later. That's when I go into C mode. Otherwise, I'm going to give it to me, let me go, and let me put my 2 cents worth into it too, and because that makes it exponentially better. Like I talked about the other day, that's how I operate. But when you're operating with someone who is hypercritical, no, you just tell me exactly what you want done, and that's what you're going to get. Nothing less, nothing more. That's what you're going to get, because I'm not going to open the door for you to be hypercritical with me. It's bad enough I've got to deal with this. I'm not opening the door for you to be hypercritical with me. So I can go into C mode and know that about myself, but I know what triggers me to do it too. So when we understand behavioral styles like that, then we understand how to communicate with people. I knew how to communicate with the C's that worked for me, but I didn't want people who didn't think and put themselves into the job. I didn't want those people. I was fixing nursing facilities, or I had staff that would be there in a nursing facility when I wouldn't be there. I needed people that thought for themselves. I need people that could take direction, but I needed them to be team players, where they took direction and they gave their own 2 cents worth too. And when you weren't around, they were self-motivated and had the self-confidence to make a decision and do something. I wanted thinkers. But I also wanted people that you could get along with. I wanted people that were not difficult to get along with as well, because I wanted team morale to be up. And if you had difficult personalities, people who were sharp or short with other people who were rude and didn't show up for meetings on time or didn't answer you if you needed information, that kind of thing. No, I didn't need those people either, because they make for bad morale. So when you know these things and you understand behavioral styles, you can spot people a mile away, except for the people who purposefully mask their behavioral style so you can't. But you can spot most of them a mile away, and then you know how to bridge to them. Well, there's a people person. Oh, there's somebody who's not into too much detail. Oh, that person's very detailed. Oh, that person's very direct. And you bridge to that. Or if the situation doesn't match what their behavioral style is, you just address it up front and say, okay, you're very direct, and we're about to be with some people that if you're like that, you're going to blow the deal or whatever. They don't handle being talked to that way. Now, the problem with bridging is we can sometimes get into playing roles. It's one thing to bridge to communication style. It's another when you step into a role and you're not yourself. When you sacrifice who you are to get along with someone, then you're stepping into a role instead of being yourself and creating the role for you. So it's one thing to understand how to bridge to behavioral styles and communicate with them. It's another to put yourself in the situation where you're compromising who you are to be in that situation. Those are two different things. And where's the line? If it's a conversation and you're bridging, if it's a situation that you need to work through, if it's a brief situational thing, then you bridge. But if it's going to be how you're going to have to be all the time, no, then you're taking on a role. And then you need to do your energy management and release that, pull energy out of it, and move on to a relationship, whatever it is, work, friend, business, whatever it is. Replace that relationship with one that is in vibrational alignment with you. So, those are some things about relationships we need to know as well. The last thing I want to talk about, because I don't want to go really long this evening, is a little bit more about twin flame and twin flame healing. It's true we can't heal someone else in relationship, but when a twin flame heals, the other twin heals. And if they are integrated, when one heals, they both heal. Now, twin flame integration is literally energy integration. It's literally the twin, both of them, if they're both aware, but if they're not both aware, you can actually feel your twin's energy integrated with your energy. And you can actually do healing work yourself, and they benefit even more from the healing. Twin flame relationships are tricky. We have to follow our guidance with those. Yes, you're here to be here with that person. Yes, they light you up. Yes, it's intense. But if it goes on and on and on and they don't move towards you, then you have to follow your guidance what to do there. And if you're a relationship person and it looks like that relationship is just not ever going to happen for whatever reason, you have to follow your guidance there and ask. Just ask. What do I do here? I don't want to be by myself anymore. And I'm supposed to be with this person, and this person is not moving in that direction. So, what do I do here? And be open to the guidance you get. That is what I have to say to twin flames who are in the situation of not in relationship and wanting to be in relationship and having no idea if their twin is ever going to come around or not. Now, I know from the twin flame story that I read to you all and from talking with many twin flames, many don't have a clue how to go on once they've met their twin. Gabrielle's group, which is Twin Flames in the Afterlife, they don't know how to go on once their twin has transitioned and they're still here. It can be very difficult. Our twin lights us up like no one else does. And if our twin flame is here and we know it, that's who we want to be with. But at the same time, you can't put your entire life on hold waiting for that either. So you do have to come to a point where you deal with it. And you can't give away the farm to be with your twin either. You can't, just like you can't with any relationship. This is true with any relationship. It has to be a 1 + 1 = 3. It has to be an energy for energy. And that gets really all muddled up easily in twin flame because of all the running and chasing and all of those behaviors, which if twin flames would just stop and go to the place of calm and talk to each other. One of the things Pam wants to talk on the next episode, and the reason I went ahead and did this is because it's going to be a bit before Pam can do it. Pam wants to talk about how do you talk to someone who doesn't want to be talked to, or how do you talk to someone who is not at the same level of consciousness that you as you are. And in reality, there are things that make it easy. Understanding behavioral styles helps. Refusing to use labels for things, refusing to label the person as bad because they're not communicating the way you think they should. All of those kinds of things. Refusing to see that them being in a different vibrational frequency makes them somehow in the bad place and you're in the good place. Getting rid of all of those labels helps immensely. But at the end of the day, the person either wants to communicate with you or you don't, or they don't. You truly have to there go by your guidance too. There are people that I communicate with that I don't reply even unless I'm guided to, because maybe they'll be in touch, maybe they won't be in touch. And then if I respond, it's okay. So is the conversation over now? I have no control over the conversation at all. None. It's totally at whether or not they want to, they don't want to speak. And that's that's not ever appropriate for somebody to put you in that situation. So I don't respond without checking with my guides. I don't reach out without checking with my guides. When somebody else controls complete access and you have no control, when you're just like, oh, okay, they want to talk to me now, there's a problem. It's disrespectful of you. And if you respect yourself, you can only put up with that for so long. Now, some people do it because they're shy or they're awkward or whatever. But at some point, they have to come out of that. Maybe someone's feelings got hurt or something of that nature. Well, at some point, they have to come out of that vibrational frequency too. You can't let them bring your vibration down because they're refusing to come out of a vibrational frequency. Most people who have hurt us, we've hurt them too in some way or another. Because we are all different levels of consciousness, see things differently at different times. So when we get this, well, they hurt me thing going, again, there are some difficult personalities out there that hurt people on purpose, etc., etc. But look at the level of consciousness. Look at what was going on at the time. And is that really who that person is? Or is that what was going on at the time? Does it have something to do with, may even have, what was your level of consciousness? What were you putting out? See, there's so much to this. So when we decide someone has hurt us and therefore we are going to treat them a certain way, that is an invitation for us to look at ourselves. What was my part? What was my part? We always have a part because we're attracting energies. So we always have a part. Understanding energy management has caused me to take a whole different look at the way people treat me or things that have happened to me in the past. There are some things that happen because the energy I put out. Doesn't mean it was okay that they did it. It was the level of consciousness that I was at, and I didn't understand that the energy I was putting at attracted that type of behavior back. my being ultra easygoing and just saying, no, I don't care whatever, attracting someone um, who would take advantage of that kind of thing, and see that as a weak person. Um, that's something that never occurred to me. I was doing my best to be accommodating. I have no problem making decisions about where to go. Um, Making decisions is not an issue for me to do. I can make decisions. I was trying to be easygoing. I was trying to make it easy for the person. So there are so many things with relationships to think about. The last thing that I want to cover is Pam was talking about being very high vibrational and how it can be exhausting and how you ride this wave and then you come down. You ride the wave and you come down. And I meant to bring it up yesterday and we got off on some different things and I didn't circle back to it. Pam and I had actually discussed this before, though, so she's not going to be surprised. We discussed it in a conversation a couple of days before. The truth of the matter is, we're not meant to do that. Being high vibrational is a state of beingness, even if you come down into depression, even if you get into the denser energies. Someone who's naturally a high vibrational person still has all the high vibrational undertones going on. So, what Pam was talking about is sometimes high vibrational people, especially those who have been through traumas and bad relationships, they get used to not just being high vibrational, but they get used to being very entertaining, very accommodating, very life of the party, very almost over the top, because it comes easily to them. It comes easily. But you can be high vibrational and be calm too. You don't have to be high vibrational and put out that kind of energy. It was something I really didn't understand because I was born the life of the party kind of thing. I laugh, I cut up, I'm all of those things. So kind of what started the conversation with Pam and I about all of this to begin with is the fact that I've now come to a point where I feel to me like I'm in neutral all the time. Well, neutral is a good place to be. Not overly high vibrational, not low vibrational, just neutral. It's most people consider that where you should be is neutral. That's so that you don't get overly excited about something and overextend yourself, but not under excited about it and not show that you are interested. So neutral certainly has its place. And neutral is where we're not expending as much energy. We're just kind of coasting when we're neutral. And that's what I was talking to Pam about is, I'm at this point now where I feel neutral all the time. And it's not a comfortable situation for me. I'm used to laughing and cutting up and being what most consider more high vibrational. But I'm not depressed or unhappy or any of those things. So I'm not in the denser energies either. And I still function at a very high vibrational perception of things. And yet something happens and instead of my HFS moments, I'm like, oh, okay, that happened. And I just kind of observe it and take it in and process it and go on. It is far more conserving of energy than everything being an HFS moment. And I miss those, to be honest, because that is more my personality, is to be excited about every little thing. I'm the one that gets excited about squirrels. I have all the squirrels numbered. That's their names, Rascal 3048. I mean, I'm that person. But if I'm not in that mode, it doesn't mean that I'm in dense energies or being low vibrational. We still have this baseline vibration that we're born at, that we function at. And Pam and I were both born at very high functioning baseline vibrational frequencies. But because we also tend to laugh a lot and all of those things. And that can be exhausting, especially if you feel like you have to carry a room. or if you have to keep everything light with someone so they don't get upset or they don't take something you're saying wrong or that kind of thing, that can be exhausting. So, but it's really not about, do you ride the wave and then crash, ride the wave, crash, ride the wave, crash. Whatever vibration you're normally at, riding a wave and then crashing, riding a wave and then crashing is not good use of energy management. We should, for the most part, be pretty even keel. Now, does that mean we don't laugh and enjoy ourselves? No, absolutely not. But even people who have dense energy most of the time, they laugh. So laughing does not necessarily mean that you have stepped into this high vibrational way of being. It just means that that moment in time, your vibration went up some because you're laughing. So that's the other thing too about relationships and people is be your authentic self. And if you find yourself, as we're going through all of this awakening, if you find yourself getting into a more neutral energy space where you're not riding the waves, don't look at yourself and think that you're depressed. Don't, if you don't feel depressed, you're not depressed. That shift is being made. Those of us who are very high vibrational and who tended to be laughing all the time, easily excitable, etc., we are making that shift to a more neutral space within our high vibration perception of things. When we're in that neutral space, no one can mess with you. No one can mess with you. Someone can say something hurtful, but you're in a neutral space. So it just goes right by. You know it's not about you. Someone can be low vibrational. You don't have to go to that. You just stay in your neutral place. Somebody can be very high vibrational and laughing hysterically or whatever too. And you can join in with that if you want to, or you can stay in your neutral space. And it's perfectly acceptable. There's nothing, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you, but it's an uncomfortable position for those of us who are usually at like joy and bliss. This whole just happy, content, happy and content, happy and content plus seems like rock bottom to me. It's like, whoa, have I? But my basic baseline of my vibrational frequency that I was born with continues regardless of that. And so that's what we have to do is learn to function at our baseline vibrational frequency. And then do so from the neutral space where we're not reactionary, where we don't get triggered easily. Because even high vibrational people can get triggered easily. We all have things that we're still dealing with, that we're still releasing, etc. So you can be a very transcendent person and still not have not dealt with all your triggers. Being able to manage your energy and not ride the wave like this all the time, but be in neutral energy allows someone to say something to you that, let's say it's one of these people that's difficult for you to communicate with, and they say something and you don't know how to take it. If we're low vibrational or overly high vibrational, because even from a high vibrational place, you can have a reaction of, I don't know what that meant, but it's an over the top reaction to it, even though you don't say it in a low vibrational way. It's more of a reaction to it than is warranted. When we're at either extreme, our reaction to things can be more reactionary than is warranted. So being in the neutral space is not a bad thing. It does feel kind of uncomfortable though for those of us who aren't necessarily used to feeling in the neutral space, in the neutral zone here, folks. So those are some things from some notes I had from what Pam and I talked about yesterday that I did want to cover. Pam and I are going to do a show when she has the time and is feeling up to it and talk more detail about how you communicate with someone who is not willing to communicate with you. It is a difficult thing. And that really becomes more about, in all honesty, knowing your own worth. And if you've tried to communicate with someone and they're inconsistent, they control all the lines of communication, all of those things, all you can do is know your own worth and judge it, each communication, individually, and follow your guidance and ask, okay, do I respond? Do I reach out? Do I follow up? Do I just ask for the guidance? But remember, when you're truly trying to communicate with someone from the right place, from your heart space, and they're not willing to reciprocate the communication, you're getting your answer. It is an energy deficit loop. When you communicate and someone refuses to communicate with you, and I'm not saying if you communicate 40,000 times and they only respond 40, oh, if you communicate 40,000 and they only respond 39,000, I mean, that's excessive. I'm talking about true, just communication, just simple, basic communication. We all have times when we don't get back to someone right away. We all have times where something slips our mind. We all have those things. We all have times when we're just busy, or sometimes when we have to think about it before we reply. So those are natural things. But when you're dealing with someone who consistently just doesn't respect you enough to reply to you, they're giving you their answer. Their answer is, I'm going to control this and I'm going to control you. That's their answer. They're only controlling us if we let them. Remember that. And go by your guidance on it. We don't know what their level of consciousness is around something. We don't know what vibrational frequency they're in. We don't know exactly what's going on with that person. So I would want to be given the benefit of the doubt. So that's where I will always start, is giving someone the benefit of the doubt. Mutual respect. That's how I want to be. I want to be given the benefit of the doubt. So I give someone else the benefit of the doubt. But sometimes after a while, it's just too much. And your guidance will be, you're not going to be able to ever have any kind of consistency. So when we can be in that neutral place and receive that kind of guidance, we can react to it and accept it better. If we're either up or down, riding the wave, that kind of guidance is more difficult to accept. Another reason to not ride the waves, but stay at your high vibrational frequency of perception of things. But don't always react from that. React from a neutral place. There's much to be said for doing that. So, remember, all relationships are important. Yes, there are times when someone's actions say to us very clearly what they're thinking, especially if someone point blank tells you one thing and then communicates to you in some way or another that their intention is something else. But there again, how do you want to be treated? Do you want them to jump to conclusions about you? Do you want them to consider what your level of consciousness was at the time? Do you want them to consider what your vibrational frequency was at the time? Do you want them to consider life? If it were you. If so, then you give them that consideration. But if it goes on and on and on, of course, listen to your guidance. Do what your heart is telling you. And that's what we should do with all relationships, because that's how we should live our lives. It's from our heart space. The heart knows the story. Our hearts know the story. So, relationships 2.0. You all have a great week, folks. As long as you're breathing, keep living. A great big capital Life.